are, whether you're an entrepreneur type person or whether you want to go into the job market and climb the ladder, you are going to have to understand what drives you. Otherwise, you're going to be unsuccessful, bluntly. So the first thing that I want to say to you is, so power is a very interesting thing, because in organizations, the first thing that I do as a consultant when I go into any organization, the first question I ask myself is, I'm hearing a bit of an echo. The first question I ask myself is, where does the power lie? So there are two main, there's informal leadership and informal power that you cannot ignore. And then there's the formal power. And the formal power comes with authority, and it's role specific. So it's your CEOs, it's your C-suite, your executives, all the titles, all the blah, 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 my boss, my manager, the words that we use, the labels that we put on people. And depending on who you are, you would place certain value on that. And depending on the culture, you will place value on it. So in some organizations, titles mean nothing. And I've had multiple clients like that, where it's possibly one of the most successful people, the brightest people, the rich, they're very wealthy, and all these amazing things. And they've got beautiful open door policy. They speak to anybody. They're just so incredibly grounded. Recently, I've spoken to one of my clients, and I'm going to share with you who he is Gary Bell. So he is the second generation of the Bell Equipment Company, and he's now the chairman of the company. And so I work with his CEO that's not a Bell member. So he brought him in, which is fantastic, because it's third generation, and it's not a family member, which is a sign of good decision making. And I went to go and see him in his place in Constantia, and beautiful setting, stunning, down to earth, cats walking around, stunning. And the reason why I had to go and talk to him was because he made certain statements in an AGM meeting that I know the executives found hard to swallow and hard to deal with. And I sat down with him and I said, yes, so Gary, are you aware of your influence? And he said to me, what are you talking about? I'm not the CEO anymore. I said, no, you are the chairman. Okay, so that role brings clout and authority. But the reality is his power and his influence comes from who he is and the charismatic person that he is. So when he says something, people take it as gospel truth, even though he might not have all the information because he's not in that role anymore. And it took me probably 2 hours to convince him to understand that in spite of the fact that he doesn't have the formal authority any longer, that he still is seen as a massive authority in the organization. Now, if that is the case, then you have to ask yourself, how does this work? How does this really, really work? So there is perceived authority and power, and then there's the real authority and power. So my partner, like I mentioned earlier, he runs a medical insurance company. And I met him years ago as a consultant. And so I know a lot of people in the business. And there was a lady, she was the chickie in the office that would bring us coffee. She was the cleaner. She was that girl. But her name was Delta. But she was phenomenal. She had such a presence, and she had such an energy. And unfortunately, a terrible thing, she passed away recently, COVID. Prior to that, she had health issues, and I cannot tell you how that shocked the entire organization. They had to bring counselors in to help people to cope with the loss of Delta. Now, you want to ask yourself then, really? The cleaning person, the person that looks after the execs to make sure they get coffee? Really? But she was one of those people that when you walked in, she would give you a big hug and she would say, hello, Mama Africa, how are you doing? You know, and she would always talk about women power, and she would always have these things. And I get emotional when I think about it, but this is the influence she had. And now, I mean, it was actually very cute. And I'm quickly just going to tell you the story. What they ended up doing is they gave everybody just a packet of seeds of a specific flower that she loves. And so everybody, so her legacy is living on in everybody's gardens and in the place. And she had the least authority in the organization, but she was instrumental in the climate and the culture of that organization. Okay. So then you've got to ask yourself, okay, so how do we navigate power then? And there's a line that I love. And there's a book now that's similar to that line that I'll try to find for us. I haven't read it, so I don't know, it might be really crap. So I'll check it out first, okay, before I send you a link. But there's this thing called leading beyond authority. I learned this concept years ago when I was doing a change management thing about 10 years, more than that actually, with Mentorship in Cape Town, where we would go. So it's a change management course where you, and it's a leadership thing where you would go to different communities and you would have conversations with people in the community that's made a real impact without any authority, that have changed communities. And that's where I saw this in action. So what I'm saying to you is, one of the biggest mistakes that we make is we think that we get into an organization and you're stuck in an organization that's driven by rank. And some organizations are, and you're never going to move past it. I think some military organizations are like that. However, if you think, and that concept of the house of cards, the whole location, so where you sit in the organization, I want to say to you, there's the ego, so the physical and the organogram and where you're meant to be in terms of rank, but then there's a real rank and the real structure where you truly sit. And that is very much linked to how you show up and how you navigate yourself in the workplace. So I want to move a little bit into that space now, if it's possible. And because the reality is power is not equal, and there's always inequality in power in terms of power. But you've got to figure out how to move past it. You need to figure out how to navigate that in a way that can help you. So I want to show you a little slide quickly that I like to use a lot. And it's a picture just to explain what I'm talking about now. So I'm going to move into, and you guys have done some work on EQ and emotional intelligence and all of these beautiful things. So I want to just tap into a little bit of that, just a little bit of how do you navigate that? How do you show up to make sure that your power is not lost? And how do you tap into somebody else's true self and the person who they really are, and not the title or the authority level that they are in? So let me just figure out how to do this quickly. Sorry, I need to just find my sharing thing here. Where are you? Here you are. There we go. Okay, that's not the one I wanted to show you, but I will touch on it. Okay, let me just make it big. I'm assuming you can see my slide now. So just move you so I can see you better. Otherwise, I keep looking in the wrong direction. Okay, so how this works is like this. All of us have something to give. All of us have what we call our true selves. All of us have, there's a reason why you're on earth, okay? And all of us have got something that we've got to come and do here. And all of us have talents and our own stuff. And then there is there's something that we call the ego, something that we do where we say, for us to protect ourselves in this world, we have to put some stuff around us. And that can be seen as your ego. And often people say, oh, where does ego come from? Ego is a protective mechanism. So ego is not something to be hated. It's something to be embraced. and to understand. So if you think about a 2-year-old, where does it develop? When as babies, we're born beautiful as our true selves, and then something happens. And that something that happens is we don't get our way. Something happens that we don't get our way. And in that moment, something kicks in that says, I need to protect for myself. I need to fend for myself. And then it kicks in and it starts building and building. And we learn certain skills and we learn certain things that we end up focusing more on what the ego is than what we really are. Okay, so and this is why I keep saying the words, you've got to be mindful of how you are showing up. Okay, so when you show up or when you come into a conversation with somebody with authority and power, and they talk around or they behave around these things, and you can see it so easily. If there's a strong overarching focus on their confidence that leads into arrogance and hectic criticism and taking skills, experience, knowledge, and competence and moving it too far, and you becoming arrogant of it, then it's not self-confidence anymore. So there's self-confidence is learned behavior, just quickly, and self-esteem is who we truly are, right? So self-esteem is, so there's a difference between those things. And self-esteem is like on your base, is who you really are when you're on your own and you look yourself in the mirror and you try to figure out who you really are. That's self-esteem. But self-confidence is learned behavior. It is things that you can study. So if somebody's got low self-confidence, it's an easy fix. In essence, you can say to somebody, you know what, and it's skill specific. Okay, so I might not have lots of confidence around, I'm trying to find something. Oh, gourmet cooking. I've got zero confidence. I love baking and I love cooking for my family at times. But if you say to me, listen, you're going to be hosting 10 people and you've got to pull out a really special gourmet meal, I am going to go into a panic state. So that's your fear-based thing. That's a fight, flight, and freeze thing, which I also want to just touch on very, very quickly, because that's the issue, is that when we are when we panic, we go into our egos, okay? Because we need protection. And I will go into a panic state and I will fight, I will run away, I will freeze, I will get a panic attack, I won't be able to breathe, I will be a bully, I will be blaming and defending and whatever I need to do until I can move close to myself. And that's just what I want to show you. And until I can move into that vulnerable space and I can say, you know what, I can't do this, I need help. So asking for help is a very vulnerable thing, and being transparent about it and saying, I'm struggling now because, sweetie darling angel, I can't do that. This is not who I am. So it's so incredibly important to recognize when somebody is in the ego. There is no way, and this is my opinion, okay, there's no way you can navigate power successfully without being aware of what is going on. So the awareness, the self-awareness, the emotional intelligence stuff that you guys spoke about, that self-awareness of where I am right now in terms of my ego, and can I put my ego aside and say, frick, I really don't know what I'm talking about here. Can you please help me? I'm sitting in discomfort. I'm sitting, all of these things that is in this vulnerable space. And then you can navigate power, and also to be able to recognize when somebody else is in the ego. So a label, a title, a fancy look, the physical stuff, I call it the superficial stuff, okay? And some people will say, no, it's not superficial. But, like the cars we drive, the watches we have, the houses we have, that all those goeders. Okay. So now, if you look at all these things, so I've closed I'm going to stop sharing, eh? Yeah. So I just want to close this. So if you look at all these items that I've just mentioned to you, what is very, very important to know is that it is basically, I would say, the most important skill set to be able to, first of all, just realize, where am I? And where's the person when I talk to them? Are they in the ego or not? And the chance that they're in the ego and that you're in your ego, especially if you've got to approach somebody in a position that is out of your rank or even below your rank, the chances that you're going to be in that role is incredibly high. So I want to propose a few things to you. So the first thing that I want to ask you is that when you navigate this thing and try to be, sorry, I'm hearing noises. I'm trying to be in that vulnerable space. I don't know if you guys have come across Brené Brown's work around vulnerability and empathy and blaming and all of those things. But I would definitely, if you haven't started reading her stuff or haven't started looking at her stuff, and that's a number one. Because if you can understand vulnerability, you can understand power. And if you can understand vulnerability, you can navigate power. Because the reality is the way to navigate power is to get into that vulnerable space with somebody else. So there's one more concept that I want to talk to you guys about mentorship and coaching and what the difference is around it. But before I go there, there's just one more thing that I quickly want to say. So obviously, if we want to understand power, one of the big drivers will be how we manage relationships, right? And in order for us to build healthy relationships, you've got to ask yourself the question, what are the key relationship elements? What are the relationship elements in functional relationships? And if we had time, I would have let you now just write down things that would come up. And it would probably, I'm going to guess because I've done this like 1,000 times, I'm not even joking. It will be things like trust. Oh, now I've got a haha pen. I'm going to just get another one, yeah? It's probably going to be things like trust. It will be respect. It will be being open and transparent. Transparency will be one of it. It will be, you must be able to talk about stuff. And everybody always says communicate, which means absolutely nothing because it's too broad. So there will be all these different relationship elements. And we came up with, over the years, we came up with a model. We came up with a model that says, if you take all the stuff that people say when you ask them that question, what are the key relationship elements? There's an acronym that I love. And I'm actually thinking now, Sid, you were joking earlier about writing on a piece of paper. I'm actually going to do it. There's an acronym that we call SAFER. And that is, so if you want to build relationships, you have to have all these, so it's literally like SAFER. You have to have all these elements. And the first one is security. And security is this whole thing that I just said to you. You've got to be able to make people feel welcome and safe in your space. They've got to be able to come into that vulnerable space with you. The A is accountability. So there's no way you can have a functional relationship with somebody if you're not able to hold somebody else accountable. Doesn't matter who they are, and holding yourself accountable. And then I'm going to skip the F because that's the one that people always get wrong. So I'm going to come back to that. The E is empowerment. You have to be equal and empowered. And that's why I'm talking about this, because it's such a critical element in it. And for us to be functional in a relationship, how do you get equal power if I've got stuff that in your mind is more than you have? How do you have equal power when you have an adult and a child? How do you have equal power if you've got race issues and gender issues and disability issues, all the real stuff? How do you get equality? How do you do that? And that's what you've got to start thinking about, is how do you navigate that? By being real and going into that space of being vulnerable and saying, okay, so this is the reality. I'm coming in with blah, 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 and you are coming in with blah, blah, blah. Let's see how we can do this together, okay? And that, my darling, my angels, is called respect. So if you look at that acronym that I'm writing to you, that I'm showing it to you now that I wrote, respect, what it means is to be seen. And you can only be seen if you first see yourself. So if you can become aware and say, yes, I'm totally my ego, I'm so shit scared to speak to this guy now, then only can you see the other person for who they truly are, for that true self. And the moment you do that, you're able to navigate the power and navigate the rank. Okay. Now you're going to say to me, okay, that's fantastic. It's such good news. Thank you for telling us. How do you get through that shell? How do you get through that shell? So there's one element that people always get wrong. When I ask them about functional relationships and the key relationship elements, they don't give me this point. And this point is the most, in my opinion, the most important thing. And that is the connection bit. And we call it the fun element. So think about it. Think about why you love your partner or your best friend. It's because you freaking have fun with them. Okay, so the fun element is where you actually connect with somebody, because what you do in that moment is you see them for who they are and you find something that you've got in common. It is the relatedness that's being reinforced in that moment. And where does the word relationship come from? It comes from that relatedness. Okay, it's much, much harder for us to make friends with people that we've got nothing in common with. And then what we've got to do is we've got to find similarities in other things. So one of the exercises that I always do when we talk about relationships, I split people up in threes. And I say to them, okay, find 3 things that all 3 of you have in common. I cannot tell you how quickly it shifts the mood and the value of what we talk about after that. And the reason is the moment I see you and I see there's something in you that I also like. Oh, you also love cats. Or what is this, a dog? Cats. You also love cats. You also like coffee. You're also a huge heavy metal fan. You're also whatever. The moment you've got your 3 things, and it's amazing because in that process, we have to explore, who are you really? Out of the work context, out of my shell, who are you really? What is it that drives you? What is it that makes you tick? And the moment you have that, it clicks. I can tell you multiple stories where I have had to deal with really ranking people, high level, huge corporates and blah, blah, blah. Important people, having to connect with them. And it's always been something that's not related to the title and the job that they're doing. And finding something in their space that you see and you know, that's what makes them tick. If you just look at my environment, and I just realized this, you guys can see these pictures of my kids behind me. Now, if you have to connect with me, that's such an easy connection point. How old are your kids now? They can't be babies still. Are they still babies? It's as easy as that. Okay. So having said all of these wonderful things, I want to show you something else. So I'm going to jump back to my slides quickly, because in the consulting space, but this goes for freaking any job, right? So it doesn't matter whether you work for yourself, whether you work in organizations, whatever the case is. You can choose to show up in a certain way. I've said this to you, but it's almost like you've got to find your balance. It's almost like a pendulum. You know what a pendulum is? Like a pendulum swinging, and I realize I've got to stop talking. So I want to show you guys something quickly. Let me just find that slide quickly. Where is it now? Here it is. So let me just share that with you. Sorry, I can't see my button. I'll share that with you in a bit. There we go. There we go. So you can see. Okay, so I want to show you something. So I love this. This is the work of Peter Block. He did fantastic work on flawless consulting, which is not necessarily what you guys want to go into right now. But I love the concept of either being a pair of hands. So either you can come into a work environment, whether you are a supplier, so whether you work for yourself or whether you work in the organization as an employee. You can come in with, what can I do for you? You know, it's that pair of hands. I'm here for you. I can do whatever you need. Or you can come in as, I know and you don't know. That true arrogance. Okay, now what I want to say to you, or you can come in a partnering relationship, in a collaborative approach. And the only way for us to do that is to go into that circle that I said to you earlier. So the irony of all of these things is you think you come in and you're so humble and you're so whatever, and you come in like that, but you're a pair of hands. What you in essence is saying is, you tell me and you disempower yourself completely. And that is not being vulnerable. That is, it's not, it is, but it's also in the ego. Okay, it's not an obvious one. And of course, then the arrogance of I know and you don't know. So I'm going to draw another thingy, okay, because I like my whiteboard apparently. So I'm going to draw another thing quickly and just explain this to you. So when we talk to, sorry, let me just close. Oh no, got too many things open here. It's popping up. When we talk, when we talk about the whole thing of, sorry, let me just get this out of the way. Something's not right here. Sorry. That's it. You guys were gone for a moment. So when we talk about navigating power, and this is what I wanted to say to you, is you can either choose to be on the one side where you are a pair of hands. Okay, and so you come in, say, I'm so humble, I'm so this, I'm so that, and being directive and telling people everything and thinking that that's how you need to show up and thinking that's the only way to operate. Or you can sit in that middle. Can you see that? So on the one hand, you've got the space of being a pair of hands, or you can be that sense of I tell and I know better. Or you can go into the space of what we call discomfort. So the only way for us to be able to navigate power is to be able to go into that space of discomfort where we say, I don't know everything and it's okay, but I've got some ideas and I'd love to sit with you in this state of vulnerability where I can hold my own, but I'm open to listen and I'm open to respect you and I'm open to respect your views, and you can hold me accountable and I will hold you accountable because I respect and appreciate you enough to do that. So just as a closing thought, I want to, so some of us are incredibly controlling. So, and to such an extent that we can't work in other people's businesses because we're too controlling. And it's the one thing that my teenage children remind me of all the time is how controlling I am. And it's okay as long as you're aware of it. So I want to say to you, for you to succeed in organizations, you have to have these things. You have to know that you are controlling and that you understand power and that you want to get things done. There's nothing wrong with it, but the key is to be aware of it and not to think you can just go into a space where you're blind to it, because it is there. Thank you. That's it, Sid. I'm sorry I ran a little bit over my planned time, but I hope it's been helpful to everybody.
It has. Thank you so much. Let me just switch my camera on. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Mariheca, thank you so much. I know it's a very challenging, interesting topic as well, but you bring a lot of experience to the table, and we're most grateful for that. My point of power at the chamber is my cuteness. I do what I like because I'm just probably too cute to fire, but you know, I can also be standing on the sidewalk with a box pretty soon. Mariheca, how much time do you have? I know that you were short. You were quite pressed for time today.
No, I've got another 10 minutes or so, so it's fine.
Oh, excellent.
I can shoot.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Guys, we're open for questions. Unmute. If we could see your video, that's great. Or if you want to type your question in the chat box, feel free.
Hi,
Hello.
Mariheca. Oh, sorry.
Huh? Edwin, now you're gone. What's this?
Go for it. Go for
Okay,
it, Edwin.
Edwin, you go first. And who was the other person?
I heard a voice.
It was me, Wandile.
Wandile. Okay, Edwin and then Wandile.
Shoot.
So, hello, Marica. Thank you so much for coming today. This was very interesting. I have a question. So often we speak about like building relationships with people, especially people who are in power, by finding something in common and all those other characteristics as part of safer. But what do you do in a situation where you are, let's say, for example, either you're pitching a product to someone who's really powerful and they're immensely critical in a way that might be unfair or prejudicial towards you because you're someone who comes from one of those communities you identified that are particularly disadvantaged when, because of like our historical legacy and so on. What do you do in that kind of situation where you're in a position of vulnerability both because of your position and because of your background? And you're trying to get something from this other person, especially when the extent of that prejudice makes it substantially harder to make the common ground work as fruitfully. Thank you. That's my question.
Edwin, thank you. That's a difficult one. I think what I want to say to you is this, and this is going to sound rude, okay? But I'm going to be very, very real with you. I think, and I hear what you're saying. So the first thing that you've got to ask yourself is, why is it that you perceive this person to be hypercritical and unfair? Okay. And what we tend to do is we tend to take our lenses and put it on. So we take on our lens of maybe being disadvantaged, our backgrounds, our stories, and we put it on. And in essence, what you're not doing is you're not understanding where this person is coming from. So you feel vulnerable because you feel, I've now put my heart out there, I've pitched, I've been so brave to do all of these things, and then there's a backlash. So what I want to encourage you to do is before you even go in there, first try to have empathy with who the person is that you're talking to. So first go in and say, who is this person? Why is it that they have to see me? Which is fine. Okay, so those questions are easy. But what is it that they have been through today and in the past? So what you're really doing is, so go and have a look at that video clip of Brené Brown on empathy. I always say to people, you've got to climb into somebody else's hole. You've got to sink in that space and understand where is it that they are coming from. Because what you are doing is you're saying to me, flip it, man. I'm going there. I've got all these disadvantages. I've really put energy and effort in. I've got brilliant ideas and I'm bringing it to the table. And this guy is wholly unfair and critical. What you're not seeing is who this other individual is and why they're operating like that. And if you can do that, what you're really doing is you're seeing them, not for the role they're in, not for the money you want, not for the whatever you want to take from them, not for the thing, but you're seeing them for the human being that he is or she is. I would say that's definitely the first step. The second thing that I want to say to you is, if you read up on why some people have been incredibly successful in selling stuff and being able to get through massive obstacles, it's never just because they had a good product or a good pitch or a good offering or anything like that. It was because they were able to connect with the person they were talking to. And that's what you've got to do first. Because when somebody is hypercritical and you feel they are unfair, both of you are in your egos. So what you have to first do is to say, this person is a human being. Somebody explained it to me very well, and it's going to sound incredibly rude now, but I'm going to say it anyway. And they said, because it was that thing of how do you deal with that power and that rank and that perception of wow, and they just come across as totally unfair and they don't see me. It's not. Then you're blaming and you're defensive and you're putting yourself into that power of this, that position of disempowerment actually. And somebody said to me, you know what? I can deal with even with the queen, because after all, she also needs to poop. And the moment you realize that this is just another freaking human being that's probably got challenges of their own, that also might have a son, that also might have been in my position. So I would talk to that. I would talk to the individual sense of humanity and self. So I would go in and say, I'm sure you know what it's like to come in and having to pitch to somebody that you feel quite threatened by, that you feel that you've got a lot of respect of, understanding where I'm coming from. I can imagine you know what it's like to be the underdog. So the moment you start off with that and you sketch that picture for the other person to say, oh my gosh, this guy is so freaking brave. Look at him. There's going to be a different stance. And and then also while you're doing it, you're going to understand that you're coming with something, and this is the pair of hands story. And he's coming with, I'm the expert. And you two need to find yourselves in that really space of freaking hell, we're all just trying to make it work here. Hey, we're all just trying to cope. We're all just human beings. So find something where you know this person have had to, that's obvious, where they've had to be vulnerable in. And one of the things that I can give you as a tip, and Sid might be able to say this to you too, is when we are parents, the moment you hear you're pregnant, you're vulnerable. So if you talk to that and say you might have somebody close to you that has been through this, or you like a son or a daughter, or you might know what it feels like to do this, I'm so nervous, and you open about it, I guarantee you that person is not going to kill you. If they do, if they take you out, they're assholes and they don't deserve you, so that's fine, or they're psychopaths or something. But most people won't. The moment you talk to their humanity and their souls and who they truly are, they step up. They go into that space with you.
Thanks, Mariheca. Thanks, Edwin. Before Wandile poses his question, I've just had a question here, a reminder about the book on leadership. Was it Authentic Leadership?
It was, I'm going to let you, it was not leading beyond authority, but leading without authority. That was the one.
And do you have an author name?
No, I don't. I'll have to go and look for it. And then, yeah, so I really want to say to you guys, go and read anything about Brené Brown, because that's going to help you to cope.
There was another book that you mentioned before, Brené Brown.
Man.
Was that Authentic Leadership? I can't remember.
I don't think it's Authentic Leadership, but it could be Peter Block's stuff that's on the consulting space. It could be that, what is it called? Flawless Consulting. So that could be the other one. That's also, if you're sort of that guy that wants to go into that space, that's very good. Doesn't matter where you sit in an organization, whether you're outside or inside. That's a very, very good book. Yeah.
Awesome. Wandile, do you want to pose your question?
Yes, thanks, Sid. Thank you so much, Mariheca, for such an insightful talk. It was really interesting. I've got lots of questions, but I'll just keep it just to two. One is you spoke about, like, different organizations place emphasis on roles and titles differently. So like power, you can get your power from just the title you hold, the rank that you have in that organization. So if, let's say, we as we graduate this year and we go into an organization like that next year, that has that type of power dynamic and hierarchy in terms of the distribution of power, and we're coming, obviously, we're entry level, we're the lowest rank in that organization, how would you advise us as incoming graduates in those type of environments? Like, how would you advise us to basically show or navigate that type of space, and to also kind of also build our own sense of authority and power, like informal authority and power, in that type of space. That's the first one. And the second one is a short one. It's how would you suggest we deal with the imposter syndrome? I don't know if you're familiar with the imposter syndrome, where obviously like the more, I guess, accomplishments and talents, and the more you achieve and the more power you gain, you start doubting yourself and saying, you start thinking of yourself as a fake. How would you how would you advise us to deal with such an issue? Thank you so much.
Oh wow, Vanilla, those are really difficult questions. Thank you. Making me concentrate. So okay. So the first one, I want to suggest, so I didn't touch on the whole mentorship and coaching thing because I wanted to understand that balance between coming in as experts and at the same time sort of just being a pair of hands. If it's a really difficult organization, obviously you're going to do your best, you're going to focus, you're going to have a good relationship, you're going to focus to build a good relationship with your peers as well as whoever works with you and your manager. That's what you can focus on. You can make sure that you show up every day with integrity and compassion and all of these beautiful things. That's what you're going to do. But if I could give you a tip, I would ask for a mentor in the organization. I would go in and say, I would love to be part of the mentorship process. Most organizations have those. And usually what they do is they find a senior leader in an organization, not in your direct line, manager line. And in that relationship, you will be able to get a lot of tips and understanding and clout and how to navigate a difficult organization like that. A mentorship relationship is, again, you come in humbly, but at the same time, the mentor and the mentee gets equal value from that relationship, because we don't stay in that, oh, you just tell me what I need to do, oh, I'm the expert. You go into that space of grappling with difficult issues and showing up and being real. So I really want to encourage you to do that. And then in terms of your second question, which I can't remember now, what was it? I've got a blank.
And the imposter syndrome.
Yes. So you know how funny it is. Yesterday I had a question with a chickie that I was having a coaching conversation with. And she said to me, yeah, I'm really struggling with this imposter syndrome thing because she's highly successful. She's with a listed company. She's the secretary of a listed company. She's just flying. And again, and this is what I want to say to you. When you have that, find your fans. Find your fans so that you don't start self-doubting the whole time. And I'm not saying boost your ego, boost your ego, boost your ego. What I'm saying is this, and in that sense, that's more a coaching relationship where you've got people close to you that you trust and that you appreciate. So having that relationship with your manager, for example, to say, I know I'm not perfect, but help me on this journey, because there are times when I feel I've got so much self-doubt, and you're in a relationship with that person. Hopefully, if it's not your manager, maybe there's a sideways relationship where that person can give you honest and open feedback and hold you accountable, and you can ask questions, etc. So build your fan base. Find people around you that remind you, like your mom used to do, or your dad used to do, thinking you the whitest egg. So, and that's what we often need is to say, remember, you've actually been through a lot. Remember, you have done these things when you've got lots of self-doubt without pushing you into that space of complete arrogance. So it's a fine balance. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Wandile.
If there's anything in the chat. Mariheca, thank you so much. I know we stretched you a bit longer than the 10 minutes. I'll now hand over to Edwin. And so thank you very much. Those 2 slides you showed us, would it be possible for you to email that?
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate that. And then once Edwin has spoken, I'll just, if we can just all stay on when Mariheca leaves.
Thank you very much, Dr. Otto, for your presentation today. I'd just like to thank you on behalf of the student body that was organizing this whole event. I do remember having seen your Facebook lives, although very briefly, that you are very insightful. So it's really such a pleasure to have had you today. And it would have been nice to have you longer. And we hope that one day we can have you again on our platform Yeah, I'd just like to thank the Chamber for bringing you here today. But thank you so much, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, guys. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks, Sid. Have a
Thank
beautiful
you so
day.
much.
And we'll talk soon. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Okay. Guys, that's the end of our 4 days. Thank you so much for all the support to Wandile and Edwin behind the scenes. Appreciate that. I hope you guys got value out of it. Obviously, Edwin or Wandile will brief you on the question, which we'll send through later today. So on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, when you walk into your job, the first thing you obviously have to ask them is, what's my Chamber of Commerce membership number? And if they say we don't belong to the Chamber, you go, what? I'm not working here. Well, you ask, but do you know that Chamber membership costs less than a packet of chips a day? Okay, and for that, you get 216, or next year's 217 years of experience, 30 people, and 25 benefits for every staff member. No, man, come on. And so anyway, so that's my advertising pitch for the Chamber of Commerce. And if there's anything else, guys, anybody would like to say something now, you're most welcome to unmute yourself. Otherwise, thanks to everybody. Okay. Great.
Can I just say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
And I also just wanted to just thank you on behalf of the organizing team as well. Thank you personally, Sid, for all the behind-the-scenes work that you've also been doing, communicating with all the lecturers and organizing this 4-day work readiness program. We really appreciate your effort, and we are really excited for the future engagements, and hopefully even next year and years to come, we can build and grow this program and add new things and make it a bigger and better project. Let me say that. So thank you so much to you, and to the students and to everyone who's been coming. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope you found a lot of value and you've gained a lot of value and insights, and that will assist you if you're going to work next year or the year after. That will really stay with you for some time to come. So yeah, on my side, I just wanted to say thank you, and to the students, we'll continue with communication via email.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. And just remember that this program belongs to you, and I'm sure we'll run another series again, and you can build your own syllabus, and you can carve your own way forward, and we'll do whatever we can to help you along the journey. So thank you so much. If there's anything we can do for you, you've got my details, and I look forward to receiving the completed project work that we've sent you. And Prince, yes, the first certificate you get will be a certificate of attendance. Once we've marked all the submissions, you'll get a certificate of, I haven't found the word yet, I'm not sure what we're allowed to use, but it will be a certificate that you have completed the 4 modules on the Work Readiness program. And I found it extremely valuable, and I must thank you all for your time and the effort that you've put into this.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much.